So I want you to think about the last time a single, just an offhand comment completely ruined your entire week.
Oh, man, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. I mean, it's just a few vibrations in the air. Maybe it was a passing critique from a boss or, I don't know, a sharp remark from a friend.
Just invisible sound waves, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Invisible sound waves.
Yeah.
Yet they completely altered your reality. They hijacked your mood, they ruined your sleep, and they probably made you question all your abilities.
It's like that death by a thousand cuts feeling, you know?
Yes, exactly. But then on the flip side, I want you to picture a moment when you were completely stuck, feeling entirely defeated.
Right.
And someone spoke a perfectly timed word of encouragement. Just a handful of syllables, really.
But they completely changed the trajectory of your life.
They did. You probably still remember exactly where you were standing when they said it.
Oh, absolutely. I know I do. We carry those momentary interactions with us for decades.
We really do. And that's exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to the deep dive. We are looking at this incredibly thorough set of notes from Pastor Jared Harper.
Yeah, this is from his June 18th, 2026 study, right?
That's the one. He was studying ancient wisdom, specifically the book of James and the book of Proverbs. We're on a mission today to find out why a 2-ounce muscle in our face is like the most dangerous, uncontrollable force in our lives.
Because the physical weight of those words is basically zero. But the psychological payload is just immense.
It's massive.
And the study we're analyzing today, it looks at this through such a fascinating lens. It's examining the intersection of ancient theology and, well, very practical daily human behavior.
Because the goal here isn't just to, list out old proverbs.
No, not at all. It's to dissect the actual mechanisms of speech. Like, why do we say things we instantly regret?
And how do we stop?
Exactly. And how do these thousands of years old principles apply directly to our modern, highly opinionated digital lives? Especially today, where everyone has a global broadcast platform right in their pocket.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what stood out to me right away is the sheer volume of real estate dedicated to this topic in the source material.
It's a lot.
It is. Nearly a third of the book of James is devoted solely to words. And I think even if you approach this from a purely secular or psychological standpoint, the underlying truth here is just universal.
Yeah, the human element is undeniable.
Right. And the ancient text uses these 3 brilliant, highly visual analogies in James chapter 3. It's all to illustrate this concept of disproportionate leverage.
The whole idea that something tiny controls something huge.
Yes. Like it talks about putting a small metal bit into the mouth of a massive horse, right? Just to control its entire body.
Which makes sense.
And then it looks at ships. These huge vessels driven by fierce winds, yet they are steered by a tiny, tiny rudder.
Right, the disproportionate power.
And finally, it compares the tongue to a tiny spark that can set a great forest ablaze. To me, it's like a tiny microchip steering a massive multi-ton rocket.
That's a great modern way to look at it.
But how does a 2-ounce muscle in our face actually hold that much sway over our reality?
Well, the concept of leverage is crucial here. Like you said, a tiny pivot point that moves beasts and ships and forests.
Right.
The text doesn't shy away from that disproportionate power at all. In fact, it makes it the central thesis of human interaction. What's fascinating here is how the source material anchors this concept in its foundational theology.
To explain why words hold this kind of weight.
Exactly. The notes point back to the book of Genesis and Psalm 33.9. They highlight the ancient belief that God literally spoke the world into existence.
Oh, wow. Literally spoke it into being.
Yeah. The framework presented is that words aren't merely descriptive, they are inherently creative. They are the fundamental building blocks of reality.
Okay, I want to push back on that slightly, or at least, ground it for the listener. Because scientifically speaking, words are just air vibrating against an eardrum. How do they actually physically change reality in the way this text is suggesting? Like my rocket analogy, yes, the chip holds the code, but the thrusters do the actual physical work.
Right.
How does the tongue actually fire the thrusters of our lives?
Well, think about the physiological cascade a single sentence can trigger.
Okay.
If someone tells you a piece of devastating news, your brain processes that auditory information and instantly floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline.
Oh, that's true. Your heart rate spikes.
Your digestion stops, your hands start shaking. The physical reality of your body is entirely altered by essentially invisible ideas.
That is wild to think about, just vibrations causing a chemical flood.
Pastor Harper's notes actually include a quote from the American novelist Nathaniel Hawthorne that captures this perfectly.
Oh, what did he say?
Hawthorne wrote about how words are innocent and powerless when they are just standing there in a dictionary, but they become wildly potent and evil in the hands of someone who knows how to combine them.
Man, they are just dormant ink on a page until a human mind weaponizes them.
Exactly. The dictionary itself is harmless.
It's the human application of those words that acts as the spark. But that makes me wonder, if we possess this incredibly powerful rudder, why is our default instinct usually to steer the ship directly into the rocks?
That is the big question.
Like, if we know words can build or destroy, why do we actively choose destruction so often?
Well, the text in James addresses that head-on, and it's a complete inversion of modern expressive individualism.
What do you mean?
James 3.6 describes the tongue as a fire. It actually calls it a world of unrighteousness that stains the entire body.
A world of unrighteousness. That's intense.
It is. It says the tongue sets the entire circle of life on fire and is itself set on fire by hell.
Wow.
Psychologically speaking, the reason we steer into the rocks is that we mistake the spark for authenticity.
Wait, authenticity?
Yeah. The text highlights this glaring hypocrisy. Humans use the exact same mouth to bless God or to, pursue high ideals, and then we immediately turn around and curse other humans who are made in that same likeness.
It's a totally confusing, contradictory message about who we actually are.
Right.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that observation takes a massive swing at a very popular cultural mindset we have today.
Oh, you mean the whole unfiltered thing?
Yes. We live in an era where we are constantly told to speak your truth. We celebrate people who are completely unfiltered.
You do. We think it's brave.
Exactly. We think it's brave to just say whatever's on your mind. But this ancient source argues that speaking the very first thing that pops into your head isn't an admirable quality at all.
Not even a little bit.
It's often a terrible idea that leads directly to ruin.
I would actually take that a step further based on the notes. Unfiltered speech isn't just a bad idea, it's a biological failure to use our higher reasoning.
A biological failure. How so?
Well, the notes utilize the classic two wolves analogy to explain this internal conflict.
Oh, I've heard of that. The good wolf and the bad wolf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On one side, there is the flesh. That's the primitive, ego-driven part of us that wants its own way, that demands to be right, and absolutely refuses to be told what to do.
The bad wolf.
Right. And on the other side is the spirit, or the higher self, which longs for peace, righteousness, and genuine connection.
But I have to challenge this idea of complete suppression. Because isn't there a danger in repressing our feelings?
Oh.
Like if we bottle everything up instead of speaking our truth, doesn't that just lead to a different kind of internal destruction? We've all seen what happens when people swallow their anger for decades.
Oh, for sure. That is a vital distinction to make. Processing emotions and the uninhibited dumping of emotions are two entirely different mechanisms.
Okay, that makes sense.
The two wolves framework isn't about ignoring the angry wolf. It's about not letting it dictate your actions. The bad wolf gets fed automatically by our pride and our natural defensive neural pathways.
So when your ego is threatened, the path of least resistance is to just lash out.
Exactly. Feeding the good wolf requires intentional habits. The notes mention things like engaging with a positive community, reading, and self-reflection.
So you have to actively filter your words through your prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
Your higher reasoning.
Yes. Rather than just letting the amygdala off the leash under the guise of speaking your mind.
Speaking of letting the amygdala off the leash, the pastor's notes give a very raw, real-world example of what happens when we do that.
The story about the phone call.
Yeah. He talks about receiving a heartbreaking phone call from a former church member. When he asked why they hadn't been around, the person revealed that another member of the church had been constantly, nonstop bashing other people in the congregation.
Just spreading unfiltered negativity everywhere.
Just toxic gossip.
Notice the contagion effect in that anecdote, though. That unfiltered speech didn't just hurt the immediate targets of the gossip.
Right, it hurt the person just listening to it.
It actively damaged the wider network. It turned a seeker away from the very sanctuary they were trying to find.
That is so tragic.
The notes emphasize how dangerous that kind of talk is, because it literally sets the circle of life, the community, on fire. The damage radiates outward.
So what does this all mean for us on a daily basis?
Well,
Because if we are caught in this internal battle, it seems like that fight almost always spills outward into our relationships in the form of judgment.
oh, absolutely.
We use our words as weapons to elevate ourselves. My theory, just looking at these behavioral patterns, is that people use destructive words because they have a massive internal void they're trying to fill.
That's a really good point.
We desperately want to appear smart or funny, wealthy or powerful. And tearing someone else down is the cheapest, fastest, most neurologically efficient way to artificially elevate our own status.
That aligns perfectly with the source's contrast between two very different types of wisdom.
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text describes earthly wisdom as being rooted in bitter jealousy and selfish ambition.
Bigger jealousy. Wow.
Yeah, and when you operate from that place, the result is always disorder. Earthly wisdom is fundamentally a defense mechanism.
Because the ego feels insecure.
Exactly. When the ego feels insecure, the brain deploys jealousy and ambition to protect itself, resulting in that cheap, fast elevation you just mentioned.
Because it's entirely self-preservational. It's about protecting my fragile ego at the expense of your reputation.
Conversely, the text describes wisdom from above as pure, peaceful, gentle, open to reason, and full of mercy.
That sounds like the exact opposite of internet comment sections.
Right. Practically speaking, this type of wisdom is the ability to bypass the brain's threat response system entirely.
So it doesn't need to attack.
Exactly. It's a wisdom that doesn't need to aggressively assert itself by tearing others down because it isn't operating from a place of deficit or fear.
The remedy the text offers for this constant, exhausting urge to judge is humility. And I love the incredibly practical, almost painfully honest example Pastor Harper gives from his own life to achieve this.
The makeup sins.
Yes. He admits that he catches himself judging people all the time. He says it's an ingrained, heavily worn neural pathway.
Which is so relatable.
It really is. But he has this cognitive behavioral trick. Whenever he catches himself silently judging someone else, he immediately forces himself to run down a mental list of his own mistakes.
His own makeup sins, as he calls them.
Right.
The psychology behind that exercise is brilliant. You are intentionally triggering cognitive dissonance within yourself.
How so?
Well, you cannot simultaneously maintain a state of righteous indignation while actively listing your own identical flaws.
That makes total sense. You can't be on a high horse if you're reminding yourself you fell in the mud.
Exactly. By forcing his brain to recall his own failures, the chemical illusion of his own superiority just evaporates. He instantly becomes less judgmental because he remembers his own need for grace.
It's a total reality check. And it ties directly into the mandate in the source material that there is only one true lawgiver and judge.
And it isn't us.
No, we simply aren't equipped for the job. We don't have access to people's internal motives, their trauma, or their histories.
We only see the surface.
Right. And the text issues a very stern, logical warning about this. It says, the measure you use to judge others is the exact measure that will be used to judge you.
Which is terrifying if you think about it. If you demand strict, unforgiving perfection from everyone around you, you are constructing the very standard by which your own life will inevitably be evaluated.
I definitely do not want that standard applied to me.
Me neither. Furthermore, the notes make a striking theological claim about the nature of slander.
Okay.
It states that when we speak evil of people, we aren't speaking kingdom life. We are essentially speaking the native language of the devil.
Wow. That sounds incredibly dramatic on the surface, the native language of the devil.
It does.
But if we break that down objectively, what does that actually mean in terms of human behavior?
Well, think of it as an operating system. If human flourishing runs on connection, trust, and mutual respect, the text defines this native language as death, condemnation, shame, slander, and destruction.
So it's a virus.
It is essentially malware. Yeah, malware designed to crash the human system. When we engage in gossip or cruel judgment, we are fluently speaking a language mathematically designed to ruin human flourishing.
That reframes the whole office water cooler entirely.
Yeah.
It's not just harmless venting, it's adopting a vocabulary of destruction.
Exactly.
And I think that perfectly transitions us from judgment to another incredibly common destructive use of the tongue, which is boasting.
Oh, yes.
If judgment is how we arrogantly try to elevate ourselves above other people, boasting is how we arrogantly try to elevate ourselves above reality and the passage of time.
That's a great way to put it. We shift from trying to control other people's reputations to trying to control the future itself. The notes draw on James chapter 4 for this, which addresses the sheer foolishness of speaking as if we possess absolute control over tomorrow. The text basically mocks this illusion of sovereignty.
The examples given in the notes are so relatable, too. People saying, today or tomorrow we will go to this town, spend a year there, trade, and make a massive profit.
Just mapping out the next year like it's a guarantee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In modern terms, Pastor Harper talks about locking down a summer trip to Cancun next year, or casually declaring that you're going to build a beautiful 10,000-foot deck in your backyard.
As if you can just speak the future into existence through sheer will.
Yes.
But the text brutally reminds us of our biological fragility to counter this temporal arrogance. It says human life is just a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes entirely.
A mist.
Yeah. From dust we came, to dust we return. You are not the architect of the universe. You are water vapor.
You're a water vapor pretending you're made of steel.
Oh, that's good.
That is incredibly humbling. We just assume the future is a guarantee rather than a really fragile possibility.
And because of that reality, the source suggests a grounding practice for our speech.
Like a habit.
Yeah, instead of making arrogant declarations about the future, the text advises saying, if the Lord wills it, we will live and do this or that.
Now, Pastor Harper admits that saying, if the Lord wills it, might sound a little off-putting or, overly pious in casual conversation today.
Right, it can sound a bit formal.
But the underlying purpose isn't just to drop a religious catchphrase into your brunch plans. It's a vocal mechanism to maintain proper reverence.
I like that.
It's like a speed bump for the ego. A vocal reminder to keep ourselves in our right place, acknowledging that we actually don't know if we'll even wake up tomorrow.
It is an absolute antidote to the arrogance that flows so easily from our mouths, and this focus on verbal restraint, it brings us to the rapid-fire wisdom found in the book of Proverbs.
Yes, the Proverbs.
Which the source material heavily relies on to drive these points home. The Proverbs act as these dense psychological axioms.
Oh, the Proverbs section of these notes is just back-to-back gut punches of truth.
They don't hold back.
No, they don't. My absolute favorite is Proverbs 18.2, which states that a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion.
It is a profound diagnosis of the human ego. The fool doesn't actually want to learn.
Not at all.
The fool just wants to be heard. The goal isn't truth. The goal is broadcasting oneself.
It's almost like everyone is walking around a crowded room with a megaphone, utterly convinced they're the only ones broadcasting.
While completely oblivious to the fact that the resulting noise is just deafening static.
Yes, and restraint is the only way anyone can actually hear anything. The notes literally use the comparison. Opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one.
And nobody needs yours.
Exactly. It's entirely okay to keep your opinion to yourself. You don't have to weigh in on every single pop culture event, every political scandal, or every neighborhood dispute.
That restraint is vital because, as Proverbs 18.21 states, life and death are in the power of the tongue.
Life and death.
Yeah. The words we choose to speak are seeds, and the text is clear that whoever loves to talk will eventually eat the fruit of those seeds.
So if you plant bad seeds.
Exactly. If you plant seeds of curiosity, kindness, and understanding, you harvest a resilient network of relationships. But if you plant seeds of foolish, unfiltered opinions and constant outrage, you inevitably reap a harvest of ruin and isolation.
Which brings this ancient wisdom crashing directly into the reality of the 21st century. Because, let's be honest, if the tongue is hard to bridle in person, it is nearly impossible to bridle online.
Oh, absolutely impossible.
The notes specifically call out modern mediums like Facebook, Instagram, and Yelp. These platforms are essentially the ultimate global testing grounds for our self-control.
They are massive amplifiers for the tongue. They allow that tiny spark from James 3 to reach the global forest instantaneously. But more than that, we have to look at why they are so dangerous. The anonymity and the physical distance of a screen bypass our brain's natural social filters.
Right, because you aren't looking at a face.
Exactly. When you are face-to-face with someone, your brain is reading micro-expressions, it's monitoring tone, it's calculating social risk. Behind a keyboard, those evolutionary safeguards are just turned off.
Making it dangerously easy to type out that native language of destruction we discussed earlier.
Precisely.
And if you're listening to this and thinking, well, I only leave bad Yelp reviews when the restaurant really deserves it, or I only argue online when the other person is clearly wrong.
We all justify it.
We do. The text challenges that exact justification. We've all been there. You get terrible service, or someone posts an opinion that makes your blood boil and your fingers just start flying across the keyboard to enact justice.
Keyboard warriors.
Right. But Pastor Harper shares his own practical rule for navigating this digital minefield, and it applies even to justified anger. It's the 3-day rule.
Oh, this is such a good rule.
If he is incredibly angry about a situation, he forces himself to wait 3 full days before posting a negative review or an angry comment.
Neurologically speaking, he is enforcing a mandatory pause to allow the prefrontal cortex to catch up with the amygdala.
Starving the bad wolf.
Exactly. It denies the bad wolf its immediate meal of outrage. The chemical flood of anger takes time to metabolize and leave the bloodstream.
So by day 3, he's calm.
By the time those 3 days are up, he usually realizes that injecting that negativity out into the world isn't necessary for his survival or well-being. He notes he has rarely, if ever, actually written the bad review after waiting.
Because in that 3-day pause, perspective returns. The water vapor remembers it isn't steel.
That's beautifully put.
It's such a simple, actionable piece of advice. These digital spaces don't have to be perpetual battlegrounds. The source argues they can be places where we practice being quick to listen and slow to get angry.
Where we actively choose to bring light instead of throwing another log on the fire. It is a call to be radically countercultural in how we communicate, recognizing the immense literal weight our keystrokes and syllables carry. We are constantly building or destroying the world around us with our sentences.
So, to wrap all of this up, the core message here is that our words are not empty air. They are not harmless vibrations.
Not at all.
They are tiny, powerful rudders steering the massive ships of our lives and our relationships. They are seeds that will inevitably bear fruit, whether we are intentionally planting them or just carelessly throwing them over our shoulder.
To capture that enduring nature of our speech, the source material actually includes a beautiful quote from the poet Emily Dickinson.
Oh, I love her work. What's the quote?
She wrote, "A word is dead when it's said, some say. I say it just begins to live in that day."
It just begins to live.
Yeah.
Wow. The moment it leaves your lips, it takes on a life of its own. It enters someone else's mind and starts building architecture there.
This raises an important question. In the very beginning of the source material, it references James 3.1, which explicitly states that not many should become teachers.
Right, because of the strictness.
Exactly. The ancient reasoning given is that teachers will be judged with much greater strictness, primarily because words are their main tool. They carry more responsibility because they broadcast their words to influence the minds of others.
The scale of their impact means the scale of their accountability is exponentially higher.
But if we apply that ancient standard to our modern digital age, an age where every single person has a global broadcasting platform sitting right in their pocket.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
An age where everyone essentially acts as a publisher, a broadcaster, or a teacher to their followers online, disseminating opinions and worldviews daily. Does that mean we are all now stepping into that arena of greater strictness?
That's heavy.
By constantly broadcasting our opinions to the world, are the stakes for our daily online words far higher than we've ever realized?
That is a deeply provocative thought to chew on. We are all holding the microphone now, which means we all bear the weight of the broadcast.
We really do.
Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the profound power of words. We hope this exploration of ancient wisdom gives you a new lens for your modern conversations.
Absolutely.
This week, we challenge you to be fiercely intentional with your words. Remember that opening thought, your words, can either be the death by 1,000 cuts, or they can be that perfectly timed encouragement that changes someone's life forever. The choice of which reality you create is sitting right on the tip of your tongue.